In the 1970s, grandmother knew how to make after-school snacks under 15 minutes that mattered. Their work in the kitchen didn't just satisfy hunger, they spread peanut butter on crackers and rolled bologna around cheese. These 30 forgotten quick snacks might sound too simple today, but they kept families fed on pennies under 15 minutes. Let's rediscover what 1970s grandma made when snack time required only 15 minutes. The Fluffernutter was the ultimate 1970s after-school treat. You grabbed 2 slices of soft white bread, spread peanut butter on one side and marshmallow fluff on the other, pressed them together, and took a bite. The combination was sweet, sticky, and impossible to resist. The peanut butter was creamy and rich, and the marshmallow fluff was light, sugary, and stuck to the roof of your mouth. Kids made Fluffernutters in under 3 minutes, and the ingredients cost around 20 cents per sandwich. Peanut butter cost about 75 cents a jar, marshmallow fluff cost 50 cents, and white bread was 25 cents a loaf. The sandwich was filling enough to hold you over until dinner, and sweet enough to feel like dessert. Fluffernutters disappeared when parents started worrying about sugar content and processed ingredients, and marshmallow fluff became harder to find in grocery stores. The potato chip sandwich was the simplest, crunchiest snack of the 1970s. You took 2 slices of soft white bread, buttered them lightly, piled potato chips in the middle, pressed the sandwich together, and listened to the satisfying crunch with every bite. The chips were salty and crispy, the butter added richness, and the soft bread held everything together. Kids loved it because it was fast, required no cooking, and tasted better than plain chips eaten from the bag. A potato chip sandwich cost around 15 cents to make. A bag of chips cost 25 cents, and could make several sandwiches. Butter was cheap, and bread cost 25 cents a loaf. The texture contrast, soft bread, crunchy chips, made every bite interesting. The sandwich was filling in a light, salty way that didn't ruin your appetite for dinner. Potato chip sandwiches disappeared when they became a punchline for poor people food, and parents discouraged kids from eating chips as a meal. Before we move on, many of you asked in the comments where to find these recipes. We even received tons of email too, so we published these recipes on our website. The link is in the description. Let's continue. Graham crackers with frosting was the dessert snack that felt like you were getting away with something. You opened a box of graham crackers, grabbed a can of store-bought frosting, usually chocolate or vanilla, and spread it thick on each cracker. Some kids made frosting sandwiches by pressing 2 crackers together. Others ate them open-faced, licking the frosting off first. The graham crackers were crunchy, slightly sweet, and tasted like honey and cinnamon. The frosting was thick, sugary, and came in flavors like chocolate fudge, vanilla cream, or strawberry. A box of graham crackers cost around 40 cents in the 1970s, and a can of frosting cost 50 cents, making each snack around 15 cents. Kids ate this after school while watching cartoons or reading comics, and it felt like a special treat even though it took less than 3 minutes to make. Graham crackers with frosting disappeared when parents started reading ingredient labels and homemade frosting became trendy. Before we continuing, butter and sugar sandwiches were the ultimate cheap, quick, sweet snack of the 1970s. You took 2 slices of soft white bread, spread softened butter on one side, sprinkled white sugar over the butter until it was thick and gritty, then pressed the second slice on top. The butter melted slightly into the bread, and the sugar added sweetness and crunch. Kids ate these after school, during Saturday morning cartoons, or whenever they wanted something sweet but didn't have cookies or candy. The sandwich was soft, buttery, and sweet, with a slight crunch from the sugar crystals. It cost around 10 cents to make, bread was 25 cents a loaf, butter was cheap, and sugar was a pantry staple. The simplicity was the appeal. No cooking, no waiting, just butter, sugar, and bread. Butter and sugar sandwiches disappeared when they were labeled as too unhealthy, and replaced by fruit or granola bars as the go-to quick sweet snack. Ants on a log was the snack that made eating vegetables fun. You took a stalk of celery, washed it, cut it into 3-inch pieces, filled the hollow center with creamy peanut butter, then pressed raisins into the peanut butter in a line to look like ants marching on a log. Kids loved it because it was crunchy, sweet, salty, and looked cute. The celery was crisp and slightly bitter, the peanut butter was creamy and rich, and the raisins were chewy and sweet. Parents loved it because it included a vegetable, protein, and fruit in one snack. Ants on a log cost around 15 cents to make. Celery cost 30 cents a bunch, peanut butter was 75 cents a jar, and raisins were cheap. The snack took about 5 minutes to prepare, and kids could make it themselves after school. Ants on a log disappeared when celery lost its appeal and pre-packaged snack packs replaced homemade finger foods. These first 5 snacks weren't just food, they were quick, cheap, and made childhood feel simple. Fluffernutters, potato chip sandwiches, graham crackers with frosting, butter and sugar sandwiches, and ants on a log, all made in under 5 minutes, all under 20 cents, and all gone from modern kitchens. But the next 5 snacks go deeper: bologna roll-ups, melted Velveeta, English muffin pizzas, marshmallow fluff on bread, and Vienna sausages on crackers. These were the snacks that tasted like the 1970s, and no one makes them anymore. Bologna and cheese roll-ups were the protein-packed snack that required 0 cooking. You took a slice of bologna, laid a slice of American cheese on top, rolled them together into a tight cylinder, and secured it with a toothpick. Some kids ate them plain, others dipped them in mustard or ketchup. The bologna was salty, slightly greasy, and had that distinct processed meat flavor. The cheese was creamy, mild, and melted slightly from the warmth of your hands. Bologna and cheese roll-ups cost around 25 cents to make. A package of bologna cost about 80 cents in the 1970s and included 10-12 slices, and a package of American cheese slices cost around 60 cents. Kids made these after school, packed them in lunchboxes, or ate them as a quick snack before dinner. The roll-up format made them feel fancier than a plain sandwich. Bologna and cheese roll-ups disappeared when bologna lost its appeal and parents started buying turkey and ham instead. Velveeta melted on crackers was the warm, cheesy snack that tasted like comfort. You sliced a block of Velveeta cheese into thin squares, placed them on saltine crackers or Ritz crackers, arranged them on a plate and microwaved them for 30 seconds or broiled them in the oven for 2-3 minutes until the cheese melted and bubbled. The Velveeta was smooth, creamy, and melted perfectly without getting greasy or separating. The crackers stayed crispy on the bottom and absorbed some of the melted cheese. Kids loved this snack because it was warm, salty, and took less than 5 minutes to make. Velveeta melted on crackers cost around 20 cents per serving. A block of Velveeta cost about $1.50 in the 1970s and made dozens of servings, and a box of crackers cost 40 cents. The snack was filling, satisfying, and tasted like homemade nachos before nachos were popular. Velveeta melted on crackers disappeared when Velveeta was labeled as processed cheese product and lost its appeal. English muffin pizzas were the ultimate make-your-own snack of the 1970s. You split an English muffin in half, spread tomato sauce or ketchup on each half, sprinkled shredded mozzarella cheese on top, added toppings like pepperoni slices or green peppers, then baked them in the oven at 375 F. for 8 minutes until the cheese melted and bubbled. The muffins were crispy on the edges, soft in the middle, and tasted like miniature pizzas. The cheese was gooey and stretchy, the sauce was tangy, and the toppings added flavor and texture. English muffin pizzas cost around 30 cents to make. A package of English muffins cost 50 cents, tomato sauce was 40 cents a jar, and shredded cheese was 80 cents a bag. Kids loved making these after school because they could customize the toppings and eat them hot. English muffin pizzas disappeared when frozen pizza bagels and Totino's pizza rolls became cheaper and faster, and homemade versions felt like too much effort. Marshmallow fluff on bread was the simplest, sweetest snack of the 1970s. You took a slice of soft white bread, spread a thick layer of marshmallow fluff on top with a butter knife, folded the bread in half, and ate it like a taco. Some kids ate it open-faced, licking the fluff off first before eating the bread. The marshmallow fluff was white, sticky, and tasted like pure sugar with a hint of vanilla. The bread was soft and slightly sweet, and it soaked up some of the fluff's moisture. Marshmallow fluff on bread cost around 15 cents per serving. A jar of marshmallow fluff cost 50 cents in the 1970s and lasted for weeks. And white bread cost 25 cents a loaf. Kids made this snack in under 2 minutes, and it felt like eating a cloud. The sweetness was intense, and the texture was gooey and fun. Marshmallow fluff on bread disappeared when parents stopped buying marshmallow fluff and kids moved on to fruit snacks and granola bars instead. Vienna sausages on saltines was the salty, meaty snack that divided kids into two camps, those who loved it and those who wouldn't touch it. You opened a can of Vienna sausages, drained the liquid, sliced each sausage into rounds, placed them on saltine crackers, and ate them cold. Some kids added mustard or ketchup. Others ate them plain. The Vienna sausages were soft, salty, and tasted like processed pork with a slightly gelatinous texture. The saltines were crispy, plain, and provided a neutral base that balanced the strong flavor of the sausages. Vienna sausages on saltines cost around 30 cents per serving. A can of Vienna sausages cost 40 cents in the 1970s and included 6-8 sausages, and a box of saltines cost 30 cents. Kids made this snack after school, and it was filling enough to tide them over until dinner. These first 10 snacks defined 1970s after-school survival: cheap, fast, and made from whatever was in the pantry. If Fluffernutter sandwiches and Vienna sausages on saltines brought back memories, the next 10 will take you even deeper into the era of canned meats, frozen concentrates, and buttered everything that no one makes anymore. Banana with peanut butter was the creamy, protein-packed snack that felt like a meal. You peeled a banana, held it like a hot dog, and spread creamy peanut butter along the top using a butter knife. Some kids ate it in bites, others sliced the banana into rounds and dipped each piece into a bowl of peanut butter. The banana was sweet, soft, and slightly mushy, with a tropical flavor that balanced the salty richness of the peanut butter. The peanut butter was thick, creamy, and stuck to the roof of your mouth in that familiar way. Banana with peanut butter cost around 20 cents per serving. A bunch of bananas cost 15 cents a pound in the 1970s, and a jar of peanut butter cost $1.20 and lasted for weeks. Kids grabbed this snack after school because it was filling, fast, and required no cooking or preparation beyond peeling the fruit. The combination delivered quick energy and kept you full until dinner time. The texture contrast between the soft banana and sticky peanut butter made it satisfying to eat. Banana with peanut butter disappeared when prepackaged snack bars and granola bars took over grocery store shelves and kids stopped making fresh snacks from scratch in favor of convenient wrapped options. Jelly bread fold was the simplest, stickiest snack of the 1970s that required almost no effort. You took a slice of soft white bread, spread a thick layer of grape or strawberry jelly on top with a spoon or butter knife, folded the bread in half like a taco, and ate it in a few sticky bites. Some kids pressed the edges together to seal the jelly inside and prevent it from dripping out. The jelly was sweet, sticky, and intensely fruity, with a glossy texture that soaked into the soft bread and left purple or red streaks. The white bread was soft, pillowy, and slightly sweet, and it absorbed some of the jelly's moisture and took on its bright color. Jelly bread fold cost around 10 cents per serving. A jar of grape jelly cost 60 cents in the 1970s and lasted for months, and a loaf of white bread cost 25 cents. No knife was needed. Kids smeared jelly with a spoon and folded the bread in seconds. The sweetness was immediate and intense, the texture was gooey and fun, and it delivered an instant sugar rush that powered afternoon play. Jelly bread fold disappeared when peanut butter and jelly sandwiches became the only acceptable jelly vehicle, and plain jelly on bread was considered too simple, too messy, and not filling enough for a proper snack. Cottage cheese with canned peaches was the healthy snack that moms approved of and served in the 1970s. You opened a can of peach halves packed in heavy syrup, drained the syrup slightly but left some for sweetness, scooped creamy cottage cheese into a bowl, and placed 1 or 2 peach halves on top of the cottage cheese. Some kids mixed everything together into a lumpy, peachy mess, while others ate the sweet peach first and saved the tangy cottage cheese for last. The cottage cheese was creamy, tangy, and slightly lumpy, with small curds and a cool dairy flavor that tasted fresh and light. The canned peaches were soft, sweet, and syrupy, with a bright orange-yellow color and a mild fruit flavor that was much sweeter than fresh peaches. Cottage cheese with canned peaches cost around 25 cents per serving. A container of cottage cheese cost 60 cents in the 1970s and included multiple servings, and a can of peaches cost 40 cents and contained 4 to 6 peach halves. Moms served this snack because it felt nutritious and balanced. Protein from the cottage cheese, fruit from the peaches, and not too much sugar. The combination was filling, refreshing, and acceptable as a light lunch or afternoon snack. Cottage cheese with canned peaches disappeared when yogurt cups replaced cottage cheese in lunchboxes and refrigerators, and kids decided cottage cheese was weird, lumpy, and refused to eat it anymore. Spam slice on crackers was the salty, meaty snack that required zero cooking and divided kids into camps. You opened a can of Spam with the attached metal key, slid the gelatinous block of meat out of the can, sliced it into thin rounds with a butter knife, and placed each slice on top of a saltine cracker or Ritz cracker. Some kids added a thin layer of yellow mustard or a small slice of American cheese on top. The Spam was salty, slightly greasy, and had a dense, processed meat flavor with a pinkish color and a smooth, almost rubbery texture that held its shape on the cracker. The crackers were crispy, plain, and salty, and provided a neutral, crunchy base that balanced the strong, savory flavor of the Spam. Spam slice on crackers cost around 30 cents per serving. A can of Spam cost 80 cents in the 1970s and included enough slices for multiple snacks throughout the week, and a box of crackers cost 40 cents and lasted even longer. Kids made this snack after school when they were starving and needed something filling and fast. The combination was salty, savory, satisfying, and didn't require a plate or any cleanup. Spam slice-on crackers disappeared when canned meats lost their appeal and fell out of fashion, and parents stopped buying Spam altogether, replacing it with deli turkey, ham, and other fresh cold cuts that felt healthier and less processed. Canned fruit cocktail with whipped cream was the sweet, dessert-like snack that felt fancy and special. You opened a can of fruit cocktail with a can opener, drained most of the heavy syrup into the sink, but left a little bit in the can for sweetness. Scooped the colorful fruit pieces into a small bowl and topped it with a generous dollop of whipped cream sprayed from an aerosol can. Some kids mixed the whipped cream into the fruit and turned it into a creamy fruit salad, while others ate the airy whipped cream first and saved the fruit for last. The fruit cocktail included small diced pieces of peaches, pears, grapes, pineapple chunks, and one bright red maraschino cherry per serving, all soft, syrupy, and mild, with a mixed fruit flavor that tasted sweet and slightly artificial. The whipped cream was light, airy, fluffy, and sweet, with a cool temperature and a slight chemical taste that came from the aerosol propellant in the can. Canned fruit cocktail with whipped cream cost around 20 cents per serving. A can of fruit cocktail cost 50 cents in the 1970s and contained 2 to 3 servings, and a can of aerosol whipped cream cost 80 cents and lasted for weeks of snacking. Kids ate this snack as a special treat after school or as a light dessert, and it felt like a mini sundae or parfait without the ice cream. Canned fruit cocktail with whipped cream disappeared when fresh fruit became more accessible year-round in grocery stores, and parents stopped buying canned fruit cocktail because it was packed in sugary syrup and felt less healthy than fresh options. These 5 snacks captured the 1970s obsession with quick, simple, and sweet treats made from everyday pantry staples, each one now a distant, sticky-fingered memory that has completely vanished from modern kitchens and lunchboxes. Cheese cubes and pretzel sticks was the salty, crunchy snack that looked like a miniature party appetizer. You took a block of cheddar cheese or Colby cheese from the refrigerator, cut it into small half-inch cubes with a sharp knife, arranged the cubes neatly on a plate, and stuck a thin pretzel stick into the center of each cheese cube like a tiny toothpick. Some kids ate the cheese and pretzel together in one bite, savoring the salty, creamy combination, while others ate the cheese first and saved the crunchy pretzel stick for last. The cheese was firm, sharp, and slightly tangy, with a rich, creamy dairy flavor and a smooth texture that softened slightly at room temperature. The pretzel sticks were thin, crunchy, salty, and added a crispy, toasted wheat flavor that contrasted perfectly with the soft cheese. Cheese cubes and pretzel sticks cost around 25 cents per serving. A block of cheddar cheese cost 90 cents in the 1970s and made dozens of cubes, and a bag of pretzel sticks cost 50 cents and lasted for weeks. Kids loved this snack because it looked fancy and grown up, like something adults ate at cocktail parties with drinks. The combination was satisfying, filling, fun to assemble, and made snack time feel special. Cheese cubes and pretzel sticks disappeared when pre-packaged cheese and cracker snack packs like Lunchables took over grocery store shelves in the 1980s, and kids stopped making their own creative snack plates at home. Buttered popcorn with salt was the warm, crunchy, aromatic snack made on the stovetop long before microwave popcorn existed. You heated 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil in a large pot with a lid, added half a cup of popcorn kernels, covered the pot tightly, and shook it constantly over medium-high heat until the kernels began to pop rapidly. Once the popping slowed down, you removed the pot from the heat, drizzled melted butter generously over the fluffy popped corn, sprinkled salt on top, and tossed everything together with a wooden spoon. The popcorn was light, fluffy, airy and crunchy, with a toasted corn flavor that was enhanced by the rich, salty butter coating. The smell filled the entire house: warm melted butter, toasted corn kernels, and salt, and made everyone hungry. The popcorn was light, fluffy, airy, and crunchy, with a toasted corn flavor that was enhanced by the rich, salty butter coating. The smell filled the entire house: warm melted butter, toasted corn kernels, and salt, and made everyone hungry. Buttered popcorn with salt cost around 15 cents per serving. A bag of popcorn kernels cost 40 cents in the 1970s and made dozens of batches. A pound of butter cost 60 cents, and salt was just pennies. Kids ate this snack while watching Saturday morning cartoons or after-school TV shows, and it felt like a mini movie theater experience at home. The butter made your fingers greasy and shiny, and you had to lick the salt off after every handful. Buttered popcorn with salt disappeared almost overnight when microwave popcorn became widely available in the 1980s, making stovetop popcorn feel like too much effort, too messy, and too time-consuming for busy families. Apple slices with cinnamon sugar was the sweet, crunchy, aromatic snack that tasted like apple pie without the crust or oven. You washed a crisp apple under cold water, sliced it into thin wedges with a sharp knife, carefully removed and discarded the core and seeds, arranged the apple slices in a single layer on a plate, and sprinkled them generously with a homemade mixture of cinnamon and granulated sugar that you kept in a small jar. Some kids ate the apple slices fresh and cold straight from the refrigerator, while others microwaved them for 30 seconds to 1 minute to soften the apple slightly and melt the cinnamon sugar into a warm, gooey coating. The apple slices were crisp, juicy, tart, and refreshing, with a clean, fresh fruit flavor that tasted bright and natural. The cinnamon sugar coating was sweet, warm, aromatic, and slightly spicy, with a gritty, sandy texture that stuck to the moist surface of the apple and created a sweet crust. Apple slices with cinnamon sugar cost around 20 cents per serving. A bag of apples cost 25 cents a pound in the 1970s and included 4 to 5 large apples. A jar of ground cinnamon cost 50 cents and lasted for months, and granulated sugar was just pennies per serving. Kids made this snack after school when they wanted something sweet, but parents insisted on fruit, and it felt healthier than candy, but just as satisfying and delicious. Apple slices with cinnamon sugar disappeared when pre-cut apple slices packaged with caramel dip became popular in grocery stores, and kids stopped slicing fresh apples themselves because it required a knife and effort. Frozen orange juice concentrate was the icy, tangy, intensely sweet snack that kids ate straight from the can like a forbidden popsicle. You opened a small cylindrical can of frozen orange juice concentrate from the freezer, peeled off the metal lid with a can opener or pull tab, scooped out a thick spoonful of the frozen orange paste with a spoon, and ate it directly while it was still frozen solid. Some kids let the frozen concentrate melt slowly in their mouth like a popsicle or ice cream, savoring the intense citrus flavor, while others crunched through the icy crystals like flavored ice. The orange juice concentrate was intensely sweet, tart, tangy, and citrusy, with a bright artificial orange color and a thick, slushy, icy texture that was halfway between juice and sorbet. The flavor was concentrated and almost overwhelming, much stronger and sweeter than regular orange juice, and tasted almost like orange candy or a creamsicle without the cream. Frozen orange juice concentrate cost around 10 cents per serving. A can of frozen orange juice concentrate cost 40 cents in the 1970s and was supposed to be mixed with 3 cans of cold water to make a pitcher of orange juice, but kids ignored the directions and ate it frozen straight from the can instead. The snack was cold, refreshing, shocking to the taste buds, and delivered an instant sugar rush and vitamin C boost. Frozen orange juice concentrate disappeared when parents realized kids were eating it straight from the can and wasting expensive juice concentrate, and when frozen juice concentrate fell completely out of favor in the 1990s as fresh squeezed and refrigerated orange juice became more affordable and popular. Saltine crackers with butter and salt was the simplest, most comforting, most understated snack of the 1970s. You took a sleeve of saltine crackers from the box, spread softened butter generously on each square cracker using a butter knife, sprinkled a tiny pinch of extra salt on top of the butter for added flavor, and ate them slowly in a few crispy, buttery bites. Some kids stacked 2 buttered crackers together face to face to make a little sandwich that held twice the butter. The saltine crackers were light, crispy, flaky, plain, and slightly salty, with a neutral wheat flavor that provided the perfect blank canvas for butter. The butter was creamy, rich, smooth, and melted slightly into the porous surface of the cracker, creating little pockets of buttery goodness. The extra sprinkle of salt added a savory punch that enhanced both the butter and the cracker. Saltine crackers with butter and salt cost around 10 cents per serving. A box of saltine crackers cost 30 cents in the 1970s and contained 4 individually wrapped sleeves, and a pound of butter cost 60 cents and lasted for weeks of snacking and cooking. Kids ate this snack when they were feeling sick and needed something bland and gentle on the stomach, after school when they wanted something quick and comforting, or as a quiet bedtime snack that wouldn't upset their parents. The combination was mild, soothing, easy to digest, and tasted like home. Saltine crackers with butter and salt disappeared gradually when flavored crackers, snack chips, and more exciting cracker varieties like Wheat Thins and Triscuits took over pantry shelves, and plain buttered saltines felt too boring, too simple, and too old-fashioned for modern kids who wanted bold flavors and exciting texture. These 20 snacks captured the full spectrum of 1970s solo snacking, from sweet to salty, frozen to buttered, each costing pennies and disappearing in minutes. If you survived on any of these, the final 10 will push even deeper into forgotten pantry staples. Celery sticks with cream cheese was the crunchy, creamy snack that moms called healthy and kids actually enjoyed eating. You took fresh celery stalks from the refrigerator, washed them thoroughly under cold running water to remove any dirt or sand, cut them into 3-inch sticks with a sharp knife, patted them completely dry with a paper towel so the cream cheese would stick properly, and carefully filled the hollow center groove of each celery stick with softened cream cheese using a butter knife or small spoon, making sure to spread it evenly from end to end. Some kids added raisins on top of the cream cheese to make the classic ants on a log version that looked like tiny bugs crawling on a wooden log, while others preferred the plain cream cheese version without any additions, because they didn't like raisins or wanted to taste only the pure cream. Cheese flavor. The celery was crisp, cold, watery, and slightly bitter, with a fresh, clean vegetable crunch that snapped loudly when you bit into it and released a mild, earthy, green flavor. The cream cheese was smooth, thick, tangy, rich, and cool, with a mild, pleasant dairy flavor that coated your mouth and balanced the celery's natural bitterness perfectly. The contrast between the crunchy, fibrous celery and the creamy, spreadable cheese created a satisfying texture combination that made the snack feel more substantial and filling than just plain vegetables alone. Celery sticks with cream cheese cost around 20 cents per serving. A bunch of celery cost 30 cents in the 1970s and included 8 to 10 large stalks that could be cut into dozens of individual sticks, and a brick of Philadelphia cream cheese cost 50 cents and lasted for multiple snacks throughout the week. Kids ate this snack after school when parents wanted them to eat vegetables and get some nutrition before dinner. And the rich cream cheese made the celery taste less healthy and more like an actual treat worth eating, instead of a punishment. The combination was refreshing, hydrating, filling, and surprisingly satisfying, with a perfect balance of textures and flavors that worked together beautifully and kept you full until dinner time. Celery sticks with cream cheese disappeared gradually when prepackaged veggie snack cups with ranch dip became widely available in grocery stores in the 1990s, and kids started refusing to eat plain celery anymore, claiming it was too boring, too stringy, and too much work compared to convenient. Baby carrots with dip that required zero preparation. Cinnamon toast was the warm, sweet, crispy, aromatic snack that smelled like heaven and filled the entire kitchen with the scent of butter, sugar, and spice. You took 2 slices of soft white bread from the bread box, placed them in the toaster slots, and toasted them until they were golden brown and crispy on both sides, with slightly darker edges. As soon as the toast popped up hot from the toaster, you quickly spread softened butter generously across each slice, while the toast was still piping hot, so the butter would melt completely and soak deeply into the bread's porous surface, creating little pools of melted butter in every air pocket. Then you mixed together ground cinnamon and granulated white sugar in a small bowl or shaker jar, usually about 1 teaspoon of cinnamon to 3 tablespoons of sugar to get the perfect sweet-spicy ratio, and sprinkled the cinnamon-sugar mixture generously and evenly over the buttered toast, making sure to cover every inch of the surface so every bite tasted the same. Some kids cut the toast diagonally into triangles before eating to make it feel fancy, while others ate it in whole slices, biting off the crispy corners first and saving the soft middle for last. The toast was warm, golden, crispy on the outside, and slightly soft in the middle where the butter had soaked and softened the. The butter was rich, creamy, salty, and melted into every air pocket of the bread, while the cinnamon sugar created a sweet, spicy, slightly gritty coating that stuck to your fingers and left a sugary residue on the plate. The cinnamon was warm, aromatic, earthy, and slightly spicy, while the sugar added pure sweetness that caramelized slightly from the residual heat of the hot toast. Cinnamon toast cost around 15 cents per serving. A loaf of white bread cost 25 cents in the 1970s and included 20 slices, butter cost 60 cents a pound, ground cinnamon cost 50 cents a jar and lasted for months, and granulated sugar was just pennies per tablespoon. Kids made this snack after school, before bed, or on weekend mornings when they wanted something sweet, but parents wouldn't allow cookies or candy. Peanut butter crackers were the salty, creamy, crunchy snack made by sandwiching 2 crackers together with peanut butter in between. You took saltine crackers or Ritz crackers from the box, arranged them in neat pairs on the kitchen counter or a clean plate, spread a thick layer of creamy peanut butter on 1 cracker using a butter knife, making sure to cover the entire surface from edge to edge, pressed a 2nd cracker firmly on top to create a sandwich without breaking either cracker, and repeated the process until you had a small stack of cracker sandwiches ready to eat. Some kids ate them immediately while the peanut butter was still thick and fresh, while others let them sit for a few minutes so the peanut butter would soften the crackers slightly and make them easier to bite through without crumbling everywhere or getting cracker shards stuck in your teeth. The crackers were crispy, salty, flaky, and plain, with a neutral wheat flavor and a light, brittle texture that provided the perfect vehicle for the rich peanut butter. The peanut butter was creamy, sticky, salty, and slightly sweet, with that familiar roasted peanut flavor that stuck to the roof of your mouth and required a glass of cold milk to wash it down.
The combination of salty crackers and creamy peanut butter created a perfect balance of flavors and textures that was both satisfying and filling enough to hold you over until dinner time without spoiling your appetite. Peanut butter crackers cost around 20 cents per serving. A box of saltine crackers cost 30 cents in the 1970s and included 4 individually wrapped sleeves with dozens of crackers total, and a jar of creamy peanut butter cost $1.20 and lasted for weeks of daily snacking and sandwich making.
Kids made this snack after school when they were starving and needed something quick, filling, and substantial that didn't require cooking, heating, or any real preparation beyond spreading and stacking crackers. Hard-boiled eggs with salt were the protein-filling snack that required minimal ingredients and maximum patience while waiting for the eggs. You placed raw eggs carefully in a medium pot, covered them with cold water until the water level was about 1 inch above the eggs, brought the water to a rolling boil on the stove over high heat, turned off the heat immediately once the water reached a full boil, covered the pot with a fitting lid, and let the eggs sit undisturbed in the hot water for exactly 15 minutes to cook through completely without overcooking the. Then you carefully drained the hot water from the pot, ran cold tap water over the eggs to stop the cooking process and make them easier to peel without burning your fingers, gently tapped each egg on the counter to crack the shell all over, peeled away the shell and the thin membrane under. In large pieces, rinsed the peeled egg under cold water to remove any remaining shell fragments, and sliced the egg in half lengthwise with a knife to reveal the bright yellow yolk. You sprinkled a generous pinch of salt on the yellow yolk and ate the egg in a few bites, savoring the creamy yolk and firm white separately or together, depending on your preference. Some kids ate hard-boiled eggs whole without cutting them, taking big bites like an apple, while others mashed the yolk with a fork and mixed in extra salt or pepper to create a chunky paste. The egg white was firm, smooth, rubbery, and mild, with a clean, neutral flavor and a slightly bouncy texture that squeaked when you bit in. The yolk was crumbly, dry, rich, and creamy all at once, with a deep yellow-orange color and a buttery, sulfuric flavor that was enhanced perfectly by the hard-boiled eggs with salt cost around 10 cents per serving. A dozen eggs cost 60 cents in the 1970s, and salt was just pennies, making this one of the cheapest, most filling, most nutritious snacks available to families on a tight budget. Kids ate hard-boiled eggs after school, packed them in lunchboxes wrapped in aluminum foil, or ate them as a quick breakfast when there wasn't time for anything else. The snack was simple, filling, portable, required no refrigeration for a few hours, and delivered solid protein that kept you full and energized for. Hard-boiled eggs with salt disappeared when protein bars, protein shakes, and convenient grab-and-go snacks flooded, and kids stopped boiling eggs at home because it felt too slow, too boring, and too much work compared to modern alternatives. Crackers with squeezed cheese was the ultimate processed, artificial, brightly colored snack that defined 1970s convenience food culture and horrified nutritionists. You took saltine crackers or Ritz crackers from the box and arranged them in neat rows on a plate or paper towel, then grabbed a can of aerosol squeezed cheese, usually Easy Cheese or Snackmate brand in cheddar or American flavor, shook the can vigorously for a few seconds as the label instructed to. Mix the contents, held the can upright with the nozzle pointing downward, pointed the plastic nozzle at the center of each cracker, and pressed the plastic cap to spray a thick swirl or dollop of bright orange cheese onto each, creating perfect little cheese-topped snacks. Seconds without any knives or. Some kids made elaborate designs with the cheese, spelling out their initials or drawing smiley faces and stars, while others simply sprayed a generous blob on each cracker and called. The squeezed cheese was bright orange or yellow, unnaturally smooth, salty, creamy, tangy, and tasted like a cross between American cheese and butter, with a processed, artificial flavor that was nothing like real cheese but somehow tasted delicious anyway in that uniquely 1970s. The texture was smooth, thick, slightly sticky and spreadable, and it didn't require refrigeration until after opening, which made it a convenient pantry staple that lasted for weeks. The crackers were crispy, salty, plain, and served as the perfect neutral base for the intensely flavored, highly processed cheese. The novelty of spraying cheese from a can like whipped cream made snack time feel like an event and a science experiment. Crackers with squeezed cheese disappeared when parents became more health conscious in the 1990s and started reading ingredient labels realizing that aerosol cheese was full of preservatives, artificial colors, sodium, and unpronounceable chemicals, and stopped buying it in favor of cheese slices and healthier snack items. Buttered noodles with Parmesan was the warm, comforting, carb-heavy snack that doubled as a simple dinner when parents were too tired to cook anything elaborate. You filled a large pot with water, brought it to a rolling boil over high heat on the stove, added a generous pinch of salt to the boiling water to flavor the noodles as they cooked, poured in a handful of dried egg noodles or spaghetti, about 2 cups for a single serving, stirred occasionally with a wooden spoon to prevent the noodles from sticking together or clumping at the bottom, and cooked the noodles for 8 to 15 minutes until they were soft, tender, and cooked all the way through without any hard centers. Then you carefully drained the noodles in a colander in the sink, watching the steam rise as the hot water ran out, returned the drained noodles to the empty pot while they were still steaming hot, added several tablespoons of butter, at least 3 or 4, while the noodles were still piping hot, so the butter would melt instantly and coat every strand evenly, tossed the noodles gently with a fork to distribute the butter throughout and create a glossy coating, and sprinkled grated Parmesan cheese generously over the top from a green shaker can. Some kids mixed the cheese into the noodles and stirred everything together, while others left the cheese on top and let it melt slightly from the residual heat of the hot pasta. The noodles were soft, slippery, warm, filling, and comforting, with a mild wheat flavor that absorbed the butter and cheese perfectly and created a simple but satisfying dish. The butter was rich, creamy, salty, and coated every strand of pasta in a glossy golden sheen that made the noodles shine. The Parmesan cheese was sharp, salty, nutty, and slightly granular, with a pungent aged flavor that transformed the plain buttered noodles into something savory, sophisticated, and restaurant quality. Buttered noodles with Parmesan cost around 20 cents per serving. A box of egg noodles cost 40 cents in the 1970s and made multiple servings, butter cost 60 cents a pound, and a shaker can of Parmesan cheese cost 70 cents and lasted for months of daily use. Kids ate this snack after school when they were starving and needed something warm, filling, and substantial fast, or late at night when they couldn't sleep and wanted comfort food that tasted like home and safety. The dish was simple, required minimal cooking skills beyond boiling water, and tasted rich and indulgent despite being made from just 3 basic ingredients. Buttered noodles with Parmesan disappeared when boxed mac and cheese became even cheaper and faster to make in the microwave, and plain buttered noodles felt too boring and too plain compared to the bright orange cheese sauce that kids preferred. Bread and butter with sugar was the simplest, sweetest, most controversial snack of the 1970s that horrified nutritionists but delighted kids with its pure, sugary simplicity. You took a slice of soft white bread from the loaf, laid it flat on a plate or clean counter, spread softened butter generously across the entire surface using a butter knife, making sure to cover every inch from edge to edge and corner to corner without leaving any dry spots, then sprinkled granulated white sugar heavily over the butter in an even layer, creating a thick, gritty, sweet coating that stuck to the butter and sparkled in the light like tiny crystals. Some kids folded the bread in half like a taco to keep the sugar from spilling everywhere and creating a mess, while others ate it open-faced, licking the sugar off first before eating the buttery bread underneath to make the sweetness last longer. The bread was soft, white, pillowy, and slightly sweet on its own even before adding anything, with a tender, spongy texture that compressed when you bit into it and bounced back slowly. The butter was creamy, rich, salty, smooth, and melted slightly into the bread from your body heat, creating a moist, slippery layer that made the bread taste richer and more indulgent. The sugar was pure concentrated sweetness, gritty, crunchy, and sparkled on your tongue before dissolving quickly into a syrupy coating that mixed with the butter and created a sweet-salty combination. The combination tasted like a deconstructed cookie or a lazy version of cinnamon toast without the cinnamon or toasting. Bread and butter with sugar cost around 10 cents per serving. A loaf of white bread cost 25 cents in the 1970s and included 20 slices, butter cost 60 cents a pound and lasted for weeks, and granulated sugar was pennies per tablespoon, making this one of the absolute cheapest snacks imaginable for families watching every penny. Kids ate this when they wanted something sweet but there were no cookies, candy, cake, or desserts in the house, or when they were too lazy to make anything more complicated or time-consuming. Parents often disapproved strongly, calling it empty calories, pure sugar, and terrible for your teeth, but kids made it anyway when no one was watching or when parents were distracted. Bread and butter with sugar disappeared when parents became more health-conscious in the 1980s and 1990s and stopped allowing pure sugar snacks, and when kids started demanding more exciting sweet options like fruit snacks, granola bars, and packaged cookies instead of plain buttered bread. Instant mashed potatoes was the warm, creamy, starchy snack made from dehydrated potato flakes that magically turned into mashed potatoes with just boiling water and butter. You boiled water in a small pot or electric kettle until it reached a rolling boil and steam poured out measured out the dried potato flakes into a bowl according to the package directions, usually half a cup of flakes per single serving, poured the boiling water carefully over the flakes while stirring constantly with a fork, added a tablespoon of butter and a generous pinch of salt, and stirred vigorously and continuously with a fork for about 30 seconds until the mixture transformed almost magically into smooth, fluffy mashed potatoes in under a minute without any peeling, boiling, or mashing required. Some kids added extra butter to make it richer, a splash of milk to make it creamier, or even a slice of American cheese torn into pieces to make it cheesier and more indulgent. The mashed potatoes were smooth, creamy, warm, filling, and comforting, with a mild, buttery potato flavor and a slightly gluey, paste-like texture that wasn't quite like real homemade mashed potatoes, but still tasted satisfying and familiar. The color was pale yellow from the butter, and the consistency was thick enough to hold its shape on a spoon and leave a crater when you scooped some out. Instant mashed potatoes cost around 15 cents per serving. A box of instant potato flakes cost 60 cents in the 1970s and made 8 to 10 servings depending on portion size. Butter cost 60 cents a pound, and salt was pennies. Kids ate this snack when they wanted something warm, filling, savory, and comforting, but didn't want to cook real potatoes, which required peeling with a vegetable peeler, boiling for 20 minutes, draining, and mashing with a potato masher for what felt like forever. Crackers with jam was the sweet, crunchy, portable snack that combined the saltiness of crackers with the fruity sweetness of jam in an unexpected but delicious way. You took saltine crackers or Ritz crackers from the box, arranged them in neat rows on a plate or paper towel so they wouldn't slide around, and spread a thick layer of grape jam, strawberry jam, raspberry preserves, or apricot jam on each cracker using a butter knife or small spoon, making sure to cover the entire surface without breaking the delicate, brittle cracker underneath. Some kids stacked 2 jam-covered crackers together face to face to make little sandwiches that held twice the jam and felt more substantial, while others ate them open-faced, licking the sticky jam off first before crunching through the plain cracker to make the sweetness last longer. The crackers were crispy, flaky, salty, plain, and neutral, with a mild wheat flavor and a light, brittle texture that provided a crunchy contrast to the soft, sticky jam. The jam was sweet, thick, fruity, glossy, and intensely flavored, with visible fruit chunks, seeds, or pectin gel depending on the type and brand, and a spreadable texture that stuck to the cracker and didn't slide off or drip. The combination of salty crackers and sweet jam created a perfect sweet and salty balance that was surprisingly satisfying, addictive, and more interesting than plain crackers or plain jam alone. Crackers with jam cost around 15 cents. A box of saltine crackers cost 30 cents in the 1970s and included 4 sleeves, and a jar of jam cost 60 cents and lasted for weeks of daily snacking and toast making. Kids made this snack after school when they wanted something sweet, but there were no cookies, candy, cake, or desserts in the house, or when they were too lazy or impatient to make a full peanut butter and jelly sandwich with 2 slices. The snack was portable, required no refrigeration, didn't make a mess, and could be eaten with one hand while watching TV, reading comic books, or doing work. Crackers with jam disappeared when pre-packaged snack cakes, fruit bars, Pop-Tarts, and individually wrapped cookies became cheaper, more convenient, and more widely. And when kids decided that jam on crackers was too sticky, too messy, too plain, and too old-fashioned compared to cheese. Pickles wrapped in cheese was the tangy, salty, bizarre snack that divided people into extreme camps, those who loved it and swore by it, and those who found it disgusting and refused to try it. You took dill pickle spears from a jar using a fork or your fingers, patted them thoroughly dry with a paper towel to remove excess pickle juice and brine so the cheese would stick properly and not slide off, laid a slice of American cheese flat on a cutting board or placed a pickle spear carefully at one edge of the cheese slice, and rolled the cheese tightly around the pickle like a blanket, securing it with a toothpick if necessary to keep it from falling. Some kids ate them immediately while the cheese was still room temperature and pliable, while others refrigerated them for an hour or more to firm up the cheese and blend the flavor. The pickle was cold, crunchy, sour, salty, and intensely tangy, with a bright green color, visible dill seeds, and a sharp vinegary brine flavor that was mouth-puckering and made your face. The American cheese was soft, creamy, mild, smooth, and slightly sweet, with a pale yellow-orange color and a processed dairy flavor that melted slightly from the moisture and coldness. These 30 cheap, quick snacks from the 1970s represent a vanished era of solo living, pantry creativity, and making do with what. From fluffernutter sandwiches and potato chip sandwiches to pickles wrapped in cheese and instant mashed potatoes, each snack cost pennies, took minutes to make, and required zero fancy ingredients or cooking skills. Seniors living alone in the 1970s and 1980s survived on canned goods, processed cheese, white bread, peanut butter, and whatever was lurking in the back of the cupboard. These weren't gourmet meals or Instagram-worthy creations. They were fast, filling, and the beauty of these snacks was their simplicity. No recipes, no meal prep, no grocery lists. Just grab what's in the pantry, throw it together in under 15 minutes and call it dinner. Butter and sugar on bread, Vienna sausages on crackers, frozen orange juice concentrate eaten straight from the can, squeezed cheese sprayed onto Ritz crackers. These snacks defined a generation that valued convenience, thrift, and survival over culinary excellence. They've disappeared not because they weren't delicious, but because modern convenience foods replaced them, and younger generations never learned to make them. Now, which of these 30 snacks brought back the strongest memories? Did you grow up eating fluffernutters after school, or did your grandma make you celery sticks with cream cheese? Were you brave enough to try pickles wrapped in cheese, or did you stick to safe classics like cinnamon toast and peanut butter crackers? Drop a comment below telling us. What state are you from? Which snack surprised you the most or brought back the strongest memory? Hit that subscribe button so you never miss our deep dives into disappearing food history, forgotten recipes, and the meals that built America.